class, welcome. This is critical thinking, and we are looking at the very first learning activity, Asking the Right Questions, a guide to critical thinking, and this is chapter 1. And I have a little question up here for you. Are you ready for this? Because you are about to embark on a journey that will really and truly cause you to think differently about just about anything in your life after going through all of the weeks of this course. You're really going to change your thinking and change it for the better. So, the first thing I want to talk to you about is what critical thinking is not. A lot of people come into the course with kind of a misconception. Critical thinking is not about arguing your stance. We are not going to be writing papers on how you feel about a certain subject. You're not going to be proving other people wrong or gathering information to prove yourself correct. That's not what critical thinking is. That's more of a persuasive type writing activity. This is critical thinking. You're not going to be showing how superior your thought is, and you're not going to be clinging to one side of an argument. You're not going to cling to a political stance or a moral stance or any of those things. It's not about your side of things. And you're not going to assume that the other side is fill in the blank, wrong, stupid, illiterate, bigoted. You're not going to assume they're not thinking critically. None of those things are what critical thinking is. As a matter of fact, all of these things are the opposite of critical thinking. So, what does critical thinking mean? Well, for this class, guys, it means that we have an awareness of a set of interrelated critical questions. In other words, there's a whole bunch of questions that we're going to be asking about our own thinking and things that we read or view or listen to. And we will also have the ability to ask and answer critical questions in an appropriate manner. An appropriate manner is something we want to learn definitely, because sometimes people ask or answer critical questions in an inappropriate manner. It comes off as very angry and superior and self-righteous. We don't want any of that. And it is also a desire to actively use the critical questions. Now, the desire is the big part. You have to have the desire to really question your own thinking to be able to become a true critical thinker. And that's where our problems usually lie, that we don't have the desire to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and hold myself up and see if I'm wrong here a little bit. It's hard for us to do. Critical thinking consists of an awareness of a set of interrelated critical questions, plus the ability and the willingness to actually ask them at appropriate times. So we're going to look at two alternative thinking styles: sponging, and I love that we have SpongeBob for sponging, and panning for gold. Let's look at sponging first. The advantages of sponging: well, the more information you absorb about the world, the more capable you are of understanding its complexities. So sponging is really just absorbing information. It tends to be rather quick and easy, especially when the material is presented in a clear and interesting fashion. The disadvantages of it, though: it provides no method for deciding which information and opinions to believe and which to reject, which can be a real problem. Now, sponging is not necessarily a bad thing, guys. You have to do some sponging. You have to learn the basics of things to be able to think about it on a critical level. So, yes, you've probably done a lot of sponging as a child in school. And younger students, clearly, especially really young students, would need to sponge as opposed to pan for gold. Let's look at panning for gold. It provides a model for active readers and listeners as they try to determine the worth of what they read. And notice when someone pans for gold, they kind of sift out the bad and look for the good. As they're sifting, the worthless sand kind of flows through, while the very, very valuable gold or other materials stay on the top, and that's what you can use and is very worthwhile. So when someone sponges, they read sentences carefully. They try to remember as much as they can. They underline or highlight key words in sentences. These are not bad things. I'm sure you've done them. I've done them as well. Take notes to summarize the major topics and major points. Checks underlining or notes to be sure that he or she is not forgetting anything important. He or she will find and understand what the author has to say and memorize the reasoning, but they may not evaluate it. I think of my son. He's 16 right now, and he actually has to do a lot of sponging. They have to learn a lot of really intricate information, and I think of like biology class. A lot of the information is highly proven. You know, we can see it, we can touch it. So that's just fine to sponge that type of information. But not all information needs to be sponged. Some needs to be panned. You have to pan for gold. Look at these excellent questions here. Did I ask why someone wants me to believe something? Did I take notes as I thought about potential problems with what was being said? Did I evaluate what was being said? And did I form my own conclusion about the topic based on the reasonableness of what was said? I truly love my son's biology teacher because she is wonderful about pulling out very controversial issues, all the way down to the issues about how the earth began and all that, and allowing students and actually forcing students to go out and look for things on both sides of these controversial issues so that the students can really come to their own conclusion. And they even have some debates, or not really debates, but discussions in class. Sometimes they get a little heated, but she's really good at calming them down. But she's wonderful at making sure they're able to pan for their information as opposed to just her saying, this is the right answer, take it. She allows them to really explore. And that's what you're going to be doing in this course as a critical thinker. The myth of the right answer. Let me scoot that up just a little bit. Whoops, let me back that up. The myth of the right answer. There we go. Regardless, you know, you don't want to be this kid, okay? The one that always thinks they have the right answer, always have the right answer. Regardless of the type of questions being asked, the issues that require your closest scrutiny are usually those about which reasonable people disagree. Several positions may be supported with good reasons. There will seldom be a position on a social controversy about which you will be able to say, this is clearly the right position on the issue. Guys, we're talking about things like, right now, like the Affordable Health Care Act. Highly controversial. People on both sides of this have very relevant and well-supported reasoning on why they agree or disagree with it. The legalization of marijuana. There's plenty of information on both sides that really upholds, yes, we should legalize it, or no, we should not. If you're sitting there thinking that's not true, that's clearly not true, this is absolutely right, then hang on, because you're going to have some intellectual humility in just a little bit that will allow you to begin to kind of question what you're thinking. Guys, if it's an issue, if we have a social issue, if we have something that's being debated, there's a reason why it's being debated. It's not going to be debated if there isn't any real truth on both of those sides. Thus, we may not ever come to a right answer. We may just have to come to a consensus. This brings us to weak sense and strong sense critical thinking. Wow. This is going to hurt, okay? It's going to hurt. I'm just telling you. Weak sense critical thinkers use critical thinking to defend their own beliefs. Strong sense critical thinkers use critical thinking, the same skills, to evaluate all claims and beliefs. Look at this, especially your own. In other words, sorry about that. In other words, your own beliefs are actually held to a higher level of questioning, a higher level of, I don't know if this is right or not, than the other side. Wow, that's really, truly strong critical thinking. Most of us are like this. We use critical thinking, or what we believe to be critical thinking, to defend what we believe, what we want to be true. Whereas strong sense critical thinkers, wow, they may come out starting with a position on something, but by the time they look at everything, they may be able to say, you know what, I see both sides now, and I'm not sure there is a right answer. The primary values of a critical thinker: autonomy. We all want to think that we practice autonomy. If you have autonomy, you make decisions for yourself. But you know what? Rarely, guys, are we really autonomous. Rarely are we just basing things on what we have gone out and researched. Normally, we are really influenced by everyone around us. Curiosity. You've got to be curious enough about your opposing side to go out there and research it and find out more and ask questions. Intellectual humility, that's the biggest one, guys. You've got to be able to admit when you might be wrong. And respect for good reasoning wherever you find it. This is really difficult for people. For instance, if you're a hardcore Republican, you may have difficulty finding or recognizing good reasoning from a Democrat. If you're a hardcore Democrat, you may have a very difficult time respecting and finding good reasoning when a Republican shares it with you. That's where you got to go back to that intellectual humility. Take yourself down a notch and really listen. But what if you don't agree with them and you're like, oh, I can't stand listening to this person? Well, there's some great suggestions from your book. Try to clarify your understanding of what the other person intends by asking, did I hear you say? Ask the other person whether there's any evidence that would cause him to change his mind. If it gets heated, suggest a timeout. Come back at a later time. Go out and look for some information. Ask why the person thinks the evidence on which you yourself are relying is so weak. Try to come together. If you take that person's best reasons and put them together with your best reasons, is there some conclusion that both of you can embrace? That's my favorite one. I think that's the best one. These can actually come off as a little intellectually superior depending on how you ask these questions. Search for common values or other shared conclusions. Yes, yes, yes. To serve for a basis. Try to present a model of caring and calm curiosity. Absolutely caring and calm, as opposed to hostile, as opposed to heated, so on and so forth. Remember that you're learners, you're not warriors. Don't go into this, guys, thinking I'm going to prove to them that they're wrong. Go into this trying to ask them why they believe the way they do and really, really searching for their answer. And watch your face and body movements, because you don't want to come off as a know-it-all. Guys, wishful thinking combined with our feelings and our emotions, wow, that is our biggest obstacle to our own critical thinker. Stephen Colbert says it the best. He coined the phrase truthiness. When you feel it in your gut, you know it must be right. That is your truthiness. And guys, in the United States especially if you go on social media, you'll see truthiness everywhere. Everybody can wonderfully support their own side, right? They feel it in their gut. They could run out there and find all the information to support their side, but never, ever, ever do they listen to the other side. Truthiness is not at all critical thinking. Truthiness is saying, well, I think this is right, therefore it's right. We've got to open our minds, open our feelings, open our hearts, open all of that to really, really listen to the opposition. That's going to be difficult. It's not easy, but it is well worth the effort. So guys, are you prepared for what's ahead? There's a fork in the road. In this class, you can either say, all right, I am going to take the road less traveled, so to speak. I'm going to take that road less traveled and go ahead and examine my own thinking, as opposed to the road that everyone else travels, where they continue in their own line of thinking, saying, you know what, I know I'm right, I can prove I'm right, and I can prove you're wrong. That's not what we're going to be doing in critical thinking. We're actually almost going to try to prove that we're wrong and that the other side is right. The more that we go about it with that line of thinking, the more critically we're thinking, and the more intellectual humility that we're showing, the stronger we're thinking. So guys, be prepared for what's ahead. You're in for a wild ride, and your thinking will be so different when you leave this class. It will be hard to even have a conversation with people who aren't other critical thinkers. Thanks, guys. I look forward to seeing your responses. Feel free to click around and on some of the other questions that are there for you and answer away. I can't wait to hear your thoughts and comments.